Cumberland County Commissioners Workshop meeting. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance by saying, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. and at this time I'll open the floor to public comments. And hearing none and seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 3. I'll call on Paul Polensky to discuss the memorandum between the Administrative Office of Pennsylvania Court and Cumberland County Opioid Intervention Court. Commissioners, please note that this is an action requested item for today. Paul?
Good morning. So this memorandum is the second memorandum that we've engaged in with AOPC for grant money. Last year they funded us $200,000, and this year they're providing us $50,000. We have, as of the end of June, expended the entire $200,000. So this money, the $50,000, would be available as of July 1st.
So you just found out about this?
Yes. So AOP, it's becoming evident to me that AOPC tends to short suspense me on these things, which is why this is an action item today. It needs to be signed by the end of June in order for us to get this money. Back in April, April 24th, I received a request from AOPC to provide an updated program description in our budget. I provided that on May 6th, and on June 18th, I received the MOU and a suspense of Monday the 24th. I informed AOPC that I wouldn't be able to get that done until at least today. And so we've done everything we can. Judge Guido has signed it, their financial officer has signed it, and it just requires the commissioner's signature.
Do you know, Paul, whether these are funds in the upcoming fiscal year at the state, or?
I don't know.
Well, I guess we should be happy that we're getting whatever we're getting. Because I read an article recently where the General Assembly was looking at the reserves of the court system to, I guess, put into the general fund. So, but anything sounds good to me. Anything's better than nothing. And this is for a good cause in support of our opioid intervention court. So.
The last grant, Paul, he said it was $200,000.
Correct.
Why did they introduce it? I mean, it's a successful, I mean, you may not think that.
I have no idea.
It's such a successful operation, and we're getting screwed with $50,000. How long is that going to last?
It should last for a year.
Oh, okay.
That's our intention. The way we budgeted it, we budgeted for a year.
Does the board have any questions? Any further comments? Is there a motion to approve the request?
I'll make a motion to approve the MOU with the Administrative Office of Pennsylvania Courts to secure $50,000 to support the opioid intervention.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
We'll move on to agenda item 4, Paul and Tammy Bender to discuss the budget resolution 2019-19 regarding budget adjustments. Tammy?
Finance is requesting approval for one budget resolution. It's for MH and early intervention. It's increasing revenue and expenses by $205,020. This funding is needed for EI for fiscal year 18-19. They've submitted a rebudget request. It's been submitted with the state. We're expecting that there'll be no effect on the general fund. The state's always made us whole in the past.
Any questions for Tammy? Thank you, Tammy. Next, we move on to agenda item 5, contracts and grants, and Lois.
Good morning, Commissioners. Agenda items 5, Roman numeral 1A through E are existing contracts, contract extensions, or addenda with no additional cost or increase for the county, and they include the following departments: Aging and Community Services, Children and Youth Services, Claremont Nursing Home, Drug and Alcohol, and Facilities. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments regarding any of the above mentioned agreements? Hearing none, we'll move on to items 5, Roman numeral 2. These are contracts and grants that are new, vendors, services, grants, and contracts with increases and/or decreases to the county. We'll begin by calling on Joan Crowell, who is here to discuss the agreement for Aging and Community Services. Joan?
Good morning. This is just some additional pass-through funding from the state for PA Lake Services for the York County Area on Agency on Aging, and workers still can't say it right.
You know what you mean.
It's an additional amount of $720.
Sounds good.
All
Thank you,
right.
Joan.
Excellent.
Next, we'll call Lisa Ryder to discuss the agreement for children and youth. Lisa?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm going to ask for approval for a contract with Lisa Harrison. This is a new contract. It will be replacing one of the services that our contract with the Gabi Associates provided, and he retired, so his contract is ending June 30th. Lisa Harrison has been working with the Youth Aid Panel since May 1st of 2005. This is a service that is run through the Juvenile Probation Department. It's a diversionary program for first-time juvenile offenders. They service over 200 kids per year. Lisa is requesting a 10% increase, which is $2.99 of the one per diem and $2.35 of the other per diem. The last time there was an increase in the service was back in 2011, which was 73 cents, and before that, there was no increases since it started as far back as I can see in 2005. Are there any questions?
Good, thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. Next, we'll move to Ryan Seidman, who will discuss the 3 agreements for drug and alcohol. Ryan?
Good morning, Commissioners. We'll start with Daystar. They're asking for a 4% increase in the halfway house for men. Liberté is asking for a 5% increase on their halfway house for women. And Twin Lakes is asking for a 6% increase in detox and a 7% increase in rehab. These rate increases have been reviewed and approved by their home counties. And there's a packet that they have to fill out that justifies the rate increase.
Do you know when they were last granted increases?
Liberté was not the current year, but last fiscal year. Daystar asked for a 6% increase last year, and Twin Lakes asked for a 2% increase last year.
Ryan, how much of this is covered by state or federal funds?
It's all state and federal.
All state and federal.
Any questions? Thank you, Ryan. Next, Annie Strike will be joining us video teleconferencing to discuss one agreement for early intervention fiscal year 2019-2020, one agreement for early intervention fiscal year 2018-2019, and one agreement for intellectual and developmental disabilities fiscal year 2018-2019. Annie?
Good morning, Commissioners. I just wanted to share with you about an early intervention contract, which is for 1920, and the contractor provides speech therapy services. As you're aware, early intervention is a state mandated service, and these are all funds that we receive from the state government. So the contract is actually for $24,900, and again, it's for speech therapy for children birth to 3. The second contract is actually for this fiscal year, 18-19, Barbara Weber, and that contract is an amendment to an existing contract, and the contract amount is $12,000. And again, that's early intervention, state mandated service. There won't be any impact on the county's budget. And then the third contract is with the Devereaux Foundation, again, an existing contract. This is for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And this is an amendment to an existing contract. It's an increase of a little over $2,000, $2,259. And it's because of additional services that have been provided, that have been authorized through Pixis. And it's residential support in medical environments. So it's for individuals with developmental disabilities who are medically complex. So that will bring the contract up to $113,344, but the addition is for additional services that have been provided.
Are there any
Do you have any questions?
No, I'm okay.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. We'll move on to agenda item 6, and Claudia will be joining us BTC to discuss the 3 donations for the 2019 Sarah Summit. Claudia?
Good morning, everyone. Public Safety is asking for the board's approval to receive sponsorship money from the following agencies to help offset the of hosting our annual LEPC Sarah Summit in October. There are 2 bronze commitments. They are from Members First and Power Engineers for $265, and there's a silver sponsor, Barton and Lujudas, for $530. As you know, this event is for businesses, first responders, and elected officials to be able to network together and prepare for an emergency. And we're appreciative of these agencies for their support, and we ask for your approval to receive the sponsorship money for the conference.
Any questions for Claudia?
No, I just want to comment that, Vince is our liaison to the local emergency planning committee. But, this is outstanding, the amount of support we're receiving from, different businesses and that throughout the area. And I know we're sending thank yous out to each one of these individuals, but at some point, maybe we ought to figure out a way to recognize. Maybe a public meeting or maybe at the event itself, but tremendous support for this. So it's great.
Claudia, how many sponsors do we have now? Roughly.
So quantity-wise, I'm not sure, I'd have to check the list, but financially, we are almost at the same level as last year's commitment. We had roughly 7,000 last year, and that was matching our expenses, so it was 100% paid for by the sponsorship money. And this year, it's expected obviously to meet that same thing. We're about $1,000 less, and there's still a few more contacts that the committee has spoken to that they have some verbal commitments. We're just waiting for that to come through. So the committee's worked real hard to make sure that the expenses are matched.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Claudia.
You're welcome, have a good day.
You too. Next we'll move on to agenda item 7, and Holly will be discussing the vendor addendum to the designated exchange agreement. Holly?
Good morning, Commissioners. A couple weeks ago, we had you sign a designated exchange agreement between the county and Capital Blue Cross so that it could be provided with a file necessary to market our pharmacy benefit services. Now we are asking for an addendum to add USI, who is our broker for our insurance, to the agreement so that they may receive the file on our behalf and then market our pharmacy benefit. So in order for that to move forward for the 2020 plan year, we would need to have this agreement signed.
Any questions for Holly? Thank you, Holly. For agenda item 8, Kirk Stoner is joining us, BTC, to discuss the joint bridge agreement for York County. Hi, Kirk.
Good morning, Commissioners. What we have is an update to our agreement with York County, where we have 9 shared bridges, 5 of which they're working on. This agreement just really outlines our responsibilities of an annual meeting, and then also who will pay for what. Really, we're splitting everything 50-50. This agreement hasn't been updated in quite a while. We thought it was a good time to refresh it. Put it together in consultation with our solicitor, most work with York County solicitor, And I believe the version you've seen is a consensus of all those groups.
Anybody have any questions for Kirk? Thank you, Kirk. Okay, next we'll move on to agenda item 9, which is discussion of capital project requests, and we'll begin with Robin Weigel to discuss the capital project request for assessment. Robin?
Good morning. Our CAM server will no longer be supported at the end of this year, so we have to do some upgrades, which we're coordinating with IMTO. It also means that we have supporting software that hasn't been upgraded since 2008. So there'll be work between IMTO, EST, loading software, moving software, upgrading software. While we're doing this, we're going to do some software assurance so that we upgrade our software as it upgrades instead of waiting 10 or 11 years.
That was a question I had. Should it have been upgraded since 2008?
Maybe. You roll along and everything's going, but we're to the point now, it's just like with Windows 7, when it was no longer supported, we had to jump to Windows 10. So we've just kind of taken the approach that let's get it all done and then just keep it up to date.
Anybody have any other questions for Robin? Thank you, John.
Right.
No, I do. So this includes the purchase of, am I reading this correctly, 60 computers?
No, this is the users. We currently, we make sure how many users in the county, how many computers. There's a user and then there's a session. So for instance, an assessor might use 2 sessions at one time because they have one up as they're going through data, but they have another one up to review other stuff. So they might have 2 logins. So
Okay,
user versus session.
I apologize.
Yeah, no, that's okay, that's okay, it was confusing, and we did manage to bring it down a bit. We were up in the 70 sessions and 65 computers, and we were able to drop it down, not being used anymore. We did get a couple departments to reduce theirs by a little bit because they're not in use every day. So they're gonna kind of do a shared thing, rather than having every single it kind of just got away from us. They got a new computer, oh, put camera on there. So we did trim it down a bit, but this will keep us up to date.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Next, I'll call Melissa Cavanelli to discuss the capital project request for furniture in courtroom 5. Melissa?
Yeah, this is for new furniture for courtroom 5. Courtroom 5 is currently borrowing the furniture for courtroom 6, which is actually sort of too big for courtroom 5. But we need to put that stuff back in courtroom 6. The furniture that is designated for courtroom 5 is the original furniture from when the courtroom was built 21 years ago. It's kind of in bad shape. Some of it's breaking, it's not able to be fixed.
Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding?
So you need to put the furniture back in courtroom.
Yeah, the furniture that was purchased and scaled for courtroom 6 needs to be put back there. It's gonna be in heavier use once the election occurs and we get the new
Okay, so
judge
in
in
other
there,
words,
so.
when the new court, when the new 2 new judges are seated, right?
Yeah,
Okay. So I had asked a couple of questions about, why couldn't we, look at the furniture purchase for everything at
We are.
once? Okay, well.
that was forwarded on to.
So why would we move separately on this?
I was told by the bench to put in a capital request for new courtroom furniture for courtroom 5.
All right, well,
We will work with the vendor. We have to get furniture for courtroom 7. We will work with the vendor to see, and we're actually starting to work on that already. They may be able to discount this sum based on that project as well.
Okay, and so we deal with one vendor, or how many vendors are we dealing with?
They will give us a discount potentially if we use them for the
Who's
courtroom
that?
7
Do we have
furniture.
one
It's
vendor?
Supply Source.
Okay.
They
Well,
are our preferred vendor. They've been easy to work with. They're very accommodating. there's problems with the furniture, they will exchange them at no cost. Other vendors do not offer that same.
And they're price competitive?
I'm sorry?
And they are price competitive?
I believe so, yeah. Jamie does most of that work, so I haven't done the comparisons myself on that, but we've been much happy. We've worked with other vendors and not been as pleased. A lot of other vendors, even if they're cheaper, if there's a problem with the furniture, once they deliver it, they're done.
Right.
You are, if it's the wrong size, or it somehow doesn't work, or it breaks the second day it's here, they're pretty much done. Supply Source has stood behind their purchases. We've had mistakes made with the ordering potentially, and they have come back and swapped things out at no additional cost.
And this doesn't need to be bid then?
Dan?
So we purchased this under CoStar, and so it is meeting the bid requirements. And the 7th courtroom furniture has already been approved, so this would be the follow-up approval for this set of furniture, and we will order them as a group. And once the furniture is chosen, the purchasing agents will then review it, make sure we're getting the best competitive price. If there's another vendor available that can give it to us at a cheaper price, but it's the same quality, we will go with them. The problem is you can get cheaper furniture, but it's not the same quality.
Okay.
This
So you
vendor
said the 7th courtroom furniture has already been approved?
It's part of the 7th courtroom capital that came
Well,
through.
we haven't seen any details on that furniture.
Because we don't know what's going to go in there yet. I've asked John Locke for updates on a regular basis. In fact, I just sent him one yesterday. Until they have some space that the vendor can come look at to do scale and everything else, we don't have anywhere. We took a guess based on previous courtrooms as to cost and estimates. That's what went into that capital request. At this point, we don't have any detail because we don't have anything for the vendor really to look at to make that determination of what will fit, what we need. We have a guess. We know we need this many chairs and this many tables. As far as scale or anything like that, it's a little difficult for them to get in there right now to make those, for us and them to make those decisions. So we're not at the point to know that yet.
Well, let me just state my position. I'm not against updating, our furniture as need be, and also providing for durability and so forth and so on. But I will not support any proposal that's going to spend $1,795 for one chair for a judge's chamber. Okay. Now, the comment was made here that the previous chair was purchased from Staples in 2016 for $99. And I suppose that's not up to standard, but apparently it's been in use since 2016. And I just would like to see, a closer examination of alternatives before we spend.
We have purchased
Tens
$99.
of thousands, maybe even $100,000 on new furniture.
We have purchased $99 chairs in the past. Usually by the next year, we're buying a new chair.
Okay.
They don't last.
Okay.
I tried that the first year I started in court. I'm like, we don't need expensive chairs. We're gonna buy the
I
$99.
think-
The next year, we were back in buying new chairs.
$1,795 for one chair for a judge's chamber, and I don't care whether they're a secretary or they're a judge, is too much. Okay, so I think we can do better than that.
But is that an estimate?
These are all estimates.
That's just an estimate.
These are estimates, because the cost will also depend on the materials chosen, the colors chosen, the fabric materials. It's all dependent on finishes, I'm sorry,
How much we purchased.
and how much we purchase. Again, bundling this with courtroom 7's furniture purchase should bring the prices down as well. And we have that in writing from the vendor.
Dana, the courtroom 7 capital request, you're saying is an estimate, it's not solid pricing.
Correct, and it's an estimate of the total courtroom renovation, so it includes the technology,
Right.
the renovations.
But does not include courtroom 5.
Correct, because it's a different project.
But we'd like to bundle this in with it, again, to get those costs brought down for both projects.
Well, that wasn't initially what was proposed, and I'd like to see what we're buying for the 7th courtroom before we move forward with this, so. That's my position, if my colleagues feel differently, that's up to them.
Any other comments on the request? Take any action that will be done Monday
Morning, Commissioners. Our current live scan machine has reached its life cycle, and the vendor will no longer offer a service plan for it. The live scan machine is used for fingerprinting new criminal defendants. The fingerprints are then sent electronically to APHIS, which then adds the new charges onto the defendant's rap sheet. This is also how the offender tracking number is generated for all on-view arrests. The live scan machine is also required an initial Megan's Law registration. If this machine were to go down, we would not be able to register any new Megan Law residents until it was fixed or replaced. The live scan machine is also used for new employee background checks, applicants, fingerprints for new police officers, and for initial clean and JNet criminal history users. Live scan can also be used to positively identify a suspect whose identity is in question. The new machine is an all-in-one unit with CPIN, which is the multi-shot system, and is supposed to save in cost and will also conserve space. The live scan machine is part of our is also required per our central booking plan. We intend to incur this cost and pay it out of the inmate canteen fund. The total cost was $19,000. There were some initiatives that got it down to $17,000. And due to the fact that they had given us a prototype cabinet, we're getting the cabinet for free. And that was at a cost of $2,750.
Any questions for Travis?
You said this will come out of the canteen fund?
That's correct, sir.
Do we have an estimated useful life?
This last one was 3 years. And I think a lot of that served is also because of the upgrades that came and that are being required before it went to it, so the vendor's not going to give us the plan to service it.
That's all I have.
The free cabinet is adequate.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Travis.
All right, thanks, Frank.
Okay, next, Justin Miller is joining us, BTC, to discuss the horizontal wood recycler. Good morning, Justin.
Morning. So back in 2018, Commissioners, you approved applying for a recycling grant to purchase a new wood recycler as part of our program that supports municipal composting sites. We were selected for an award, which was capped at $350,000. We have since done some research on machines, looked at various vendors, worked with our steering committee and our authority, and a recommendation has been made to purchase a Morbark 3400. We currently have 2 Morbarks in our fleet. One is 11 years old. This would replace the 11-year-old machine. The price is part of Sourcewell Purchasing Consortium, kind of similar to CoStar's. $643,260. So the state would pay $350,000 as part of the grant, and the remainder would come from a pot of money that municipalities have been putting into the program of $204,260. They're giving us $89,000 on a trade on the old machine too.
Any questions for Justin?
How many municipalities do we have now, Justin, who are using this equipment?
We have 11 that use it, which comprise 9 sites, because 2 sites are joint sites, shared by 2 municipalities.
Which are those, Judd? Silver Spring and Mechanicsburg?
The 2 joint ones?
Yeah.
Silver Spring and Mechanicsburg, and then Middlesex and North Middleton.
Oh, thanks.
Any other questions?
No, this is a great program.
I have one quick thing. Judd, since you're on the line, I didn't get to touch base with you. I was out of town. And in terms of updates for the commissioners, is there anything you wanted to bring up since I didn't get a chance to, any topics you needed to
Yeah, we're going to discuss that. Yeah, we have a letter to the representatives and senators.
Yeah, that was the raid.
The other thing I'll let you know is, so the paving project at the recycling center has commenced this week. We've been advertising for 3.5 weeks that were closed, and we still had people trying to get into the site. It just amazes me. You would think you'd see a construction site, but they just wore right into a torn up pavement. people expect to be able to recycle.
We haven't had any dumping during that time, have we?
Actually, Wednesday, we had one TV left, kind of at the direction of the paving contract. I don't mean to laugh.
We'll just take it off.
We watched it. We watched the video, and you could see them pointing to them where it weighed 40 pounds. So it's hard to go, in my opinion, it's hard to go after them when they were told to do that.
Right, I understand. But the cameras are positioned well enough now, or if anybody else tries.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's a good question. We had them set up based on the layout of the old site where the gate was, or the chain. Once the paving's done, we're gonna reposition the angle of those a little bit to where we think people would be doing stuff.
Okay, I'm sorry, you said the paving will be done when?
It's gonna continue into next week. So we're gonna be closed next week as well. It's scheduled, they told us they think they'll finish Monday. Recommended we definitely don't drive with the pavement Tuesday.
Yeah.
Just to be safe, we're gonna close Wednesday as well.
The sign for no dumping, though, that's still visible to anybody arriving on the site. So next week you're vulnerable to more dumping, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think so, but people obviously don't forget it. They drive right by it.
Yeah, okay.
But yes, we put signs right at the entrance that says we're closed. And facilities yesterday did do some additional signs, I think skull and crossbones, just to try to get their attention.
Okay.
But other than that, the program's still rolling along strong. And our first household hazardous waste event is coming up in July. That's why I want to get this paving done. And 2 days ago, we only had 20 spaces left for that event. So I think we'll fill that up.
Excellent. All right. That's good. Thank you very much for the update.
Okay, Justin, since you're on the line, your letter is discussion item number 11 to the state representative. Commissioners, I do believe will put a copy of that letter in your folder. Is there anything else that you need to discuss with the commissioners on that letter, Justin?
I'll answer any questions you might have about what's happening.
Yeah, what's happening? The benefit of our audience.
I was just gonna say, go ahead. All right.
What's that?
Go ahead, Justin, you have the floor.
Okay, so the state has a recycling fund, which is funded by the $2 per ton tipping fee. That actually funds the grant program that we're using to buy that machine. A very important program to us. Unfortunately, due to the way the grants work, they're reimbursement grants. So the state needs to have money in the pot to be able to pay back. Unfortunately, I think some of the state elected officials just see that number and think that's a surplus of money sitting there not being used. So they have proposed to take $10 million out of that to balance the state budget, which really impacts these recycling grants. So professional recyclers of Pennsylvania have encouraged local government to let their local state elected officials know the value of this program. Gary, I know you were away for the last authority meeting, but they asked me to write a letter. We actually got a response, which I think confirms that they just don't know those details of how this program works. So our fear is if we let this continue to happen, they're going to do it again, and it's just going to further stress these programs that are already dealing with some issues.
We've had quite the spirited exchange recently with some of our delegation regarding the effects of these raids, and that dialogue, shall we call it, continues to this day.
Is this, Justin, can I ask, is this separate from the $10 million from the environmental stewardship fund, or is this all 1%?
No, that's separate.
Okay. I see that you're also trying to take $10 million out of the Pennsylvania Environmental Stewardship Fund. So this is in addition to that.
This is in addition, this would come out of the recycling fund. And what they've said it would be used for is to pay for DEP and DCNR operations. So PropEd, once again, just the opportunity to let them know, because if no one says anything, then everyone thinks it's all right.
Have you considered an editorial?
I have not,
Okay, that's fine.
but I am now that you said that.
Well, here's the thing, we gotta communicate, we should send this like ASAP, because my understanding is they may wrap things up tomorrow and leave town. So, I talked to Doug Hill this morning, and I'll talk about that later in the agenda here, but, we need to get this out like right away, if it's gonna have any impact at all.
I agree, actually, we should, if you're receptive, probably take action. I agree with you, Jim.
All right, I'll make a motion to
I'll see
approve
Cam.
to approve the letter to our legislators, and hopefully get this signed and emailed to them, as opposed to snail mail.
I was second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion on the topic? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you, Justin.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Commissioner, we'll move back up to agenda item 10, and I'm calling Commissioner Eichelberger to discuss the South Central Workforce Development reappointment of Kentucky. You should have information in your packet regarding that, as well as the letter.
Right, yeah, I think all that copy of that, and everybody's, of course, all very familiar with Mr. Tucker's background, qualifications. He's been valuable member of both the statewide level and also with our local economic development efforts. Eminently qualified, certainly very generous with his time and knowledge in helping us address key worker issues in the area. And I would be nominating, I guess we do actions Monday, right? They don't need to before that. I'll be nominating him on Monday for reappointment.
Thank you, Commissioner Eichelberger.
Thank you.
Next, we move on to agenda item 12, and Commissioner Liaison report, and we'll begin with Commissioner DeFilippo.
Thank you, Sandy. Start off with the library board. They're in their new facility now, which by the way is just a great facility. I hope you all get a chance to take a look at it. At the last meeting, the board approved some policy revisions, and that would be the public relations and news media policy. The directors reviewed and approved suggested edits to the existing policy. The video recording rental collection policy was also reviewed, revised, and approved at the meeting. The board also unanimously approved authorizing the executive director to return over 5 desks, 4 tables, and approximately 25 chairs to our facilities department. And the board tabled recommendation from the finance committee to move $300,000 from unassigned funds to the technology fund for the radio frequency identification development program. Action will be taken on that later in the year. Regarding some other highlights, the wide area network, new lines were installed for the new contract period, which began June 13th, and will complete the equipment move on June 30th and powered up July 1. It's a 3-year contract with Comcast. The internet filter replacement, the capital area intermediate unit who provides the internet service will provide at no additional cost to our library system. The same filter solution our current company would have installed at over $19,000 and annual fees of $8,000. So this is being given to the library system for free. And finally, Jerry Counterman secured a $1,000 National Literacy Directory Innovation Grant for the library system. And it will be used to challenge CCLS member libraries to increase attendance for younger people. Next meeting is July 15th. Yesterday, I attended the presentation by FEMA regarding new flood maps. The preliminary flood maps are now available. We had a very good turnout. A lot of municipal folks were there, asked a lot of good questions. Me personally, I learned a lot about floodplains and how they're figured out. The appeal period to the initial draft will be this winter. Don't have exact dates yet. At that point in time, municipalities will be able to question, residents will also be able to question the initial map. The map will then be finalized, and these are all estimates, fall of 2020, and then municipalities will have up to 6 months to create and adopt a new ordinance on their floodplains. The floodplain map that was presented was based on 2007 LIDAR data. What LIDAR means is light detection and ranging. It's a way to develop a 3D image of the area, of the floodplain area. One of the comments that was made is that the maps on the FEMA site don't have topographic information. This is an issue with some of the folks in different municipalities. Questions too about, what is and what isn't in a floodplain. Found out that you could have a lot, that part of it might be in it, part of it isn't. The home may not be in the floodplain. The question is who decides whether or not insurance is required, and that's actually up to the lending institution, mortgage company, which was interesting to find out. The hazard mitigation plan is being updated. The last time that was updated was 2014, and the best guess estimate of when the new floodplain maps will be in effect is sometime in 2021. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner DeFilippo. Commissioner Herzog.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. The Capital Region Council of Governments met Monday evening, June 17th, and we heard a presentation from Jordan Pine, who's the director of a nonprofit organization known as Green Light Operation, which is a grassroots anti-human trafficking organization out of Camp Hill. And Jordan gave the COG delegates, what I call a rather unsettling and eye-opening report, highlighting that the Harrisburg region is a hotspot for human trafficking, with 127 cases reported last year, and of those, 84% related to sex trafficking of young women and girls. According to Jordan, for every case reported, it's estimated that 5 to 10 cases go unreported. Apparently, we're a hotspot primarily because of our location as a major transportation hub, with the warehouse and trucking industry being used as a way to transport and store victims. She described how victims are recruited over the internet with false job advertisements like the lure of promising modeling careers, and in some of the more horrific cases being sold by relatives or through abduction. The Green Light operation is aiming to provide training to our law enforcement community to better inform police that what may look like prostitution may actually be human trafficking. And the goal of the operation is to raise public awareness to turn red light districts to green light districts, to bring freedom to those who are victims of this modern day slave trading that apparently is happening right here in our backyard. The Green Light operation is working to secure private funding for the location of what they're calling a restoration home to be located in the Camp Hill area to help human trafficking survivors become independent and self-supporting once again. So I passed around a little card about that, and I think that if this might be something that we might want to consider at our Human Services Policy Team meeting at some point. Maybe invite Jordan in and see what we can do at the county level to kind of help out in raising awareness and also combat what apparently is going on. Meanwhile, CapCog's 39th annual auction of surplus municipal equipment is set for July 17 at the Good Hope Middle School this year because of construction at Sporting Hill Elementary School. The number of municipalities participating this year is 21, which is an increase from last year's 14. So if anybody is looking for any good stuff cheap, you can drop by the municipal surplus auction on July 17. Again, that's at what?
That was an ad for olives.
All right, I stole it.
I hope we don't get in trouble for
Yeah, we will probably Rosenberg too.
Good Hope Middle School.
He said, moving right along.
They'll take me to court now. And prison. The Housing Redevelopment Authority met Thursday, June 20. This past Saturday morning, though, as you might have read, there was a fire at 1 West Penn, the authority's public senior housing unit here in Carlisle. The fire was quickly extinguished and contained to a single unit on the first floor, but tragically, the resident of the affected unit lost her life. The entire building was evacuated, and thankfully there were no other reports of any injuries. The fire and cause of death remain under investigation. There's no estimate of damage as of yet by the insurance carrier. The Tucky companies had been retained and almost immediately began restoration work. In action at the June 20 meeting, meanwhile, the authority boards reviewed and adopted the 2019-20 building and administrative budget as presented. The Housing Authority continues to pull from the wait list on the Housing Choice Voucher Program to allow more qualifying residents to receive rent assistance. The county's Aging Advisory Board met Friday, June 21, although I was not able to attend the meeting. Sandy Guerrieri reported that we're continuing to see an uptick in protective services or report of need requests, with many of those reports from concerned citizens about their elderly neighbors or family members. The State Department of Aging has approved our plan to establish a wait list for the options program based on insufficient state funds to provide options services for all who may need such services. There was a report at the meeting that the Mechanicsburg Senior Center is outgrowing its present location. I'm not sure what the plans are to address that, but I'll try to learn more and keep the board up to date. Was that
The one in Mechanicsburg?
Yeah.
I've grown that location for the last 20 years.
Yeah, well, all right, so maybe it was just discussed at this meeting.
Yeah.
But, in the meantime, the Office of Aging is accepting registrations from county residents 50 years of age and better for the annual senior games that will take place July 18th at Mechanicsburg area High School. The Cumberland County Conservation District Board met Tuesday morning of this week at our Allen Road offices. Our summer interns were present to give a report on the testing they performed to determine nitrogen content, the need for supplement on 24 farms. They tested 3,400 acres of farmland during this year's program. Carl and Vince recently met with, not this Vince.
The other.
The other, with members of our state house to express concerns relative to House Bill 509 that passed the House and is in the Senate right now, which could potentially turn over permit inspections to private for-profit third-party operators. Conservation District staff and board have expressed serious concerns about this legislative proposal. In addition, there was a report about that at least appears there's a temporary fix in the works with respect to stormwater runoff during construction of the Commerce Center. And finally, there was some, what I would call really good news, relayed by our affiliate partner, the Federal Natural Resource Conservation Service, that $500,000 is being made available to Cumberland County this year, with potentially more pipeline down the road, to help the owners of our preserved farms and those who have applied to have their farms preserved with the institution of best management practices to limit stormwater runoff. And finally, I was pleased to be joined by one of my commissioner colleagues, Commissioner Keith Filippo, at the Nolan Miller House in Somerdale, as it was officially accepted into the Cumberland County Historical Society's Register of Historic Places. And that was on Sunday afternoon. We had a really nice turnout. For those who don't know, the Enola Rail Yards in the whole town of Enola got its name when Enola Miller's father was given naming rights for a rail flag station by the Central Pennsylvania Railroad, and he chose the first name of his 4-year-old daughter. Enola Miller was born in the near 2-century-old mountain stone house that our East Pennsboro community is trying to save. Got the Harrisburg Area Transportation Study Coordinating Committee meeting tomorrow, and one of the items on the agenda is the Camp Hill Capital Safety Study that has been undertaken to hopefully see some potential improvements, traffic safety along the artery there, 32nd Street, right around there, the Camp Hill area. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardwood. Commissioner Arthur.
Yeah, just a thought or two on some things Jim reported on. In terms of the human trafficking issue, there was a task force, I don't know if that years ago was in touch with us here. I believe it's still active, and they may be more of a clearinghouse of information and such. They've been in touch with the board about a representative, and I believe Commissioner Cross at the time actually served on that. So we may want to, as that problem escalates, we may want to get more information. Yeah, so I think they may be sort of a central authority, and there may be other players out here, including this, I'm glad I shared that. One of the things I wanted to mention too on that is, I mean, there are other players in the region, governmental and otherwise, and this might be an issue that the time's come for us to have some information sharing, maybe at a municipal advisory board meeting. I know some of the municipalities, one in particular, have dealt with some issues where their real challenge with human trafficking has been that some unscrupulous businesses, particularly the construction industry, have brought in individuals who are working for subpar wages and extremely subpar living conditions, congregated in properties in the downtowns, which of course doesn't help the downtown, doesn't help the individuals. So it is a large issue beyond just the examples that you cited. So you did mention the warehouse industry. I'm sure that it's the part of this same thing. And this is an issue that's been around for a while, but it's receiving enough attention now that I know that some of the municipalities, their police force, their codes enforcement people have been involved in these issues. It might be good for them to share some information with other municipalities, perhaps through us as a conduit, on how they address that, what resources are available for them in dealing with those issues, and for us to all find out what the resources are in the region, private and otherwise, to address the issue. So we've got, you have businesses doing this, it changes the competitive landscape of the area, it's not good for businesses. Obviously, you've got a very harmful situation on a human level, people being exploited. So it's an issue that's received a lot of national attention. It is a local issue to a degree that I think most people don't understand. So I think it would be, some of it's pass-through traffic, but a lot of it's staying here too, so for a lot of reasons. So I would like to see us maybe put that on a future agenda, or at least for discussion, see if we could address it at a municipal advisory board meeting. coordinate all the different information threads that are out there. Okay, the only other thing I have, well, actually two things. You mentioned, use the term 50 years and better. I like that, that's pretty interesting, but
Are you 50
if it's,
years back?
I'm 50 years, but I don't know about better, so I think I have to shorten it somewhere. I want to find out what this is and get what's coming to me. But anyhow, on all that aside, Judd gave us a quick rundown on recycling. I appreciate that very much. And Kirk gave me a quick rundown on a number of things as usual. Vince already touched on the FEMA map. Thank you for being in attendance to that. And your summary is much more thorough than Kirk's too, by the way, so I'll make sure that
Kirk answered the question.
I'm sure he did. He said they had almost every municipality represented, and he said 60 plus attendees. I don't know how that squares with what you stated, but he mentioned about the open house that'll be forthcoming. They're going to work with FEMA on that as well, so obviously we'll have more information on that as things are finalized. This map question has been around for a lot of years and generated an enormous amount of controversy when it was first unveiled. I don't remember how long ago that was. So there'll be a great deal of public interest in this, so we should expect to hear a lot more about this. The only other thing I wanted to mention is land partnerships. Grant applications, they have 11 applications. The committee has those under review right now. And of course, they will send their findings up to us. I don't have a time frame on that, but when that's completed, I think they're still scheduling, so they'll send up to us for review and action. And he mentions July 2 as an outreach meeting. Was that rescheduled? Because I thought that was supposed to take place already.
Outreach.
Western outreach.
There was supposed to be one yesterday.
That was one yesterday.
That's what I thought. And he mentions here 7-2 is scheduled for 7-2 at Penn Township. That's why I questioned it. I didn't have a chance to follow.
Maybe it was rescheduled, but I don't see it.
I'll question him and find out about that. I'll let you know when I find. That's everything I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Eichenberg. I would like to report that an executive session was held on the following date in 2019, Monday, June 24th at 1 p.m. regarding security issues. I would like to request an executive session to be held directly after this meeting regarding negotiations and personnel issues. Is there any other business that needs to come before the board today?
Sandy, if I could, then,
Yeah.
just ask for everybody's indulgence here for a second, but yesterday we had the meeting of the Board of Elections, so we made a recommendation on a new voting system. And unbeknownst to any of us at the time, it appeared at that time that, we were going to be left high and dry without any funding from the state. Well, last evening, I understand the House Appropriations Committee moved a bill that would potentially provide $90 million to the counties for reimbursement of the costs associated with the purchase of these new paper trail voting systems across the state. I had a conversation with Doug Hill this morning, who was the executive director of the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania. And of course, he shared with me, and I had the opportunity to work in the state Senate. You don't count your chickens until they're hatched. You don't know what you have until they're done. Okay, but at least it appears as though there's a proposal out there to provide some funding. Along those lines, we just received in the mail yesterday, and Gary had shared a copy of it during the Board of Elections meeting yesterday, a letter from Senator Fulmer. And I do think it would be good if we could try to respond to Senator Fulmer and with the questions. And then also, reiterate our support for this latest proposal to provide, the funding to the counties, and then copy that to all of our delegation in the Senate and House. I don't know, exactly how much longer they're going to be in session. I mean, it could be that they might be done as early as tomorrow, from what Doug was saying. But I think if we can get a letter out today, try to answer Senator Fulmer's questions, and then we may even update it to include the fact that we've authorized the purchase, so the Board of Elections is move forward with the purchase, so we're looking for that funding. So anyway, and then the other thing, which I thought was interesting, I guess in connection with all of this, they're considering, some various election reforms. I mentioned it once earlier that this is, and I said, silly time, they sometimes talk turkey time. This is when the sausage is being made in its ugly process, but you don't want to necessarily watch, don't want to necessarily want to watch that as it's going on. But at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff gets tagged together, and so we'll see what we end up with. Maybe as early as Saturday morning or next week. But I do think it's important for us to keep an eye on things over there, and if we can, get the message out to our legislators and to support. I understand the House may vote on it today, so it's moving quickly. But as soon as we can get, I think they should know that we're behind it. Oh, and that was the other thing, because I asked Doug, and of course we'll have this discussion with the Board of Commissioners as to, we're going to consider whether to do the lease purchase or whether to pay for it up front, go with it up front. And he's going to be clarifying that with the Department of State as to, reimbursement. So he's thinking leftist, right? She's not here. Okay. But anyway, whatever option so that we make sure that we take full advantage of whatever the state does. That's
Bethany, you have that 100% from Senator Moore, where he can't get it